Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on.
If you have not seen Brigitte Gabriel on CNN or Fox News, then maybe you have seen her on the many broadcasts on the internet. You can just Google her name and come up with tremendous information. She has been speaking all across the United States, America, her adopted home. She was a Lebanese, or she is Lebanese, American now, having been born in Lebanon. And I tell you, if you want to get the details of her amazing life, please get your hands on her book. The book is entitled Because They Hate. It is a fantastic book. And for those of you who are home here to Calvary, it has been our book of the month. After her time with us tonight, she will be signing books out in the courtyard, so you can buy them. We only have 2,000 books. We've got over 3,000 people. So you do the math, first come, first serve. But get your hands on her book and then get it signed by her. But we are so blessed tonight to have her. And so please give a warm welcome to Brigitte Gabriel as she shares with us tonight.
That's fun tonight.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. Boy, I am honored to be here tonight. And I tell you, this beautiful music, I am so sorry we have to stop the music so you can listen to me. But what a blessing. I am so honored to be here tonight. To speak to the body of Christ, to wake you up, to make you realize what is happening in our country. I hope that if you take nothing from here tonight, but you will go inspired, motivated, empowered, to network with each other, to mobilize, to protect our country, to be informed, to learn what we can do as citizens to make a difference in our country. The issue of terrorism is something very, very close to me because I have experienced it personally. I am not only an expert like the many experts who study it 16 hours a day and live and work it 16 hours a day, but I am someone who was personally affected by it. I come from Lebanon. Many people do not realize that Lebanon used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. When people think of the Middle East, they think all the people in the Middle East are Muslims, with the exception of the state of Israel. Not necessarily true. Lebanon used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. When we got our independence from France, the majority were Christians, the Muslims were the minority. We were the descendants of the Phoenicians. We were good in business. We focused on building the country. And because we had Judeo-Christian values, we were multicultural. We were open-minded. We were fair. We were tolerant. We had an open border policy. We welcomed everybody into our country because we wanted to share with them the westernization that we have created. We wanted to share with them the beauty, not only the geography of the place, but the love and the hospitality of a Middle Eastern culture and a loving Christian heart who welcomed everybody in. The Muslims used to send their children from all around the surrounding Arabic countries to study in our universities because we had built the best universities in the Arabic world. They would graduate, they would stay and work in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East, in the Arabic world, even though we did not have any oil. Sadly, all that began to change as the Christians started shrinking and the Muslims started growing. And the reason why we Christians got married to one spouse until death us part, We get married, we have children. From the time our children are born, we have 2, 3 children, maybe 4 by a stretch. From the time our kids are born, we focus on educating them, giving them the best education, what schools we're going to send them to, what lifestyle we're going to give them. The Muslims, on the other hand, multiply at a much faster pace because of their religion and their socioeconomic status. The most famous Muslim in the world today is Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden is 1 out of 53 children. He himself has 27 children. Between father and son, they have produced 80 children. 80 children. How many Christians or Jews or Buddhists or anybody else do you know, my friend, who have produced 27 or 53 children? Not many, if they're willing to confess it out loud. The Muslims are allowed to marry up to 4 wives at a time, and this is how they multiply. A Muslim man, all he has to do to divorce his wife is say, you are divorced 3 times in a row, and she is divorced. No attorney required. He has to wait 24 hours before he marries another one. I tell you, they've got a thing going on. And they multiply fast. So by 1970, the Muslims had become the majority. And we, being Christian and being fair-minded and open and tolerant and multicultural and all of that good stuff, we welcomed the Palestinians into our country. We were the only Middle Eastern country, the only Christian country in the Middle East that took in a 3rd wave of Palestinian refugees when King Hussein kicked them out of Jordan and they came into Lebanon. Most of them were Muslims. They put their heads together with the Muslims in Lebanon, and that's what tipped the scale. They became the majority, they started working together, and they declared war on the Christians. By 1974, 4 years later, the Christians became prisoners to their homes and their communities. We became prisoners to our towns. We stopped traveling. We used to go, for example, my family and I used to go to Beirut every Christmas to spend Christmas with the rest of our extended family. And we stopped traveling. And I would ask my parents, how come we're not traveling this year? How come we're not going to Beirut for Christmas? Because I didn't want to be at home with Christmas with my parents. I'm an only child. My parents were old. You have to understand, my parents were married for 22 years. They could not have any children. My mother was 55 years old, and my father was 60 when I was born. You talk about a miracle in their lives. God does make miracles happen. And I see a lot of young ones in the crowd, so you better be careful. So I didn't, and I found out later that the reason why we stopped traveling is because the Palestinians and the Muslims would set up fly-by-night checkpoints, and they would stop cars traveling, and they would look at their IDs. And in the Middle East, our religion is written on our ID. You are either a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. Not only what religion we belong to is written on our ID, but also what sect of that religion we belong to. So when they would stop the car and look at people's IDs and find out that this is a Christian family traveling, they would get everyone out of the car and shoot them in cold blood. The word traveled fast, and this is why we Christians stopped traveling. By 1975, the Muslims and the Palestinians had organized to create their own army within our country. And they created an army called Jaysh Lebanon al-Arabi, the Arabic Lebanese army. And the word Arab in the Middle East is referred only to Muslims, not to Christians. The Christians of the Middle East are not Arabs. The Christians in Lebanon are Phoenicians. The Christians in Egypt are Coptic. The Christians in Syria are Assyrians. The Christians in Iraq are called Assyrians. We only speak the Arabic language because the Muslim conquerors who conquered our countries with using the sword and forced conversions forced us to speak the Arabic language. In Christian churches all around the world today, and at least in my Christian community, in the Maronite church, up until today, in our churches, we still speak the Aramaic language, the language in which